This radioactive wasps story just got like 10,000 times worse. Or maybe that's kind of an exaggeration. It all depends on how you feel about spiders. I'm freaked out by spiders. But before we even get into that, because trust me, it's a lot, it's funny because when I put out that video yesterday talking about the radioactive wasps, about 2 hours later, I got a call from one of my friends saying that she was terrified because there's a wasp nest on the side of her house, and she was freaking out, thinking, oh my God, are these radioactive wasps? So earlier today, I had to go and remove that wasp nest from her house, and luckily, I did not get stung. If I did, you would know, because I would be, your next superhero. Cinema Shogun, the radioactive wasp man. But anyways, as I mentioned, this story has gotten worse, at least to me. Because I've seen the media talking about this story, and they're really trying to downplay things. They keep reporting that they found one radioactive nest, at this facility along the Savannah River. But they're not reporting about all of the other nests that they have found now. And they keep saying that the nest was sprayed, so the nest was destroyed, and they must have killed the wasp. But we already know for a fact that they did not find any wasps in the nest. We already saw that from initial reports, but now they're trying to muddy the waters, saying, oh, well, they destroyed the nest, and any wasp that may have been in it. No, there's no wasp in it. And for some reason, they are hesitant when it comes to reporting that, oh, they found all of these other nests as well. And as I've explained to people, the radioactive wasp, yeah, that's the headline. Yeah, that's scary. That's what most people are freaking out about when it comes to this story. But that's not the number one issue here. That's not the number one danger. In order for these wasps in this nest to become radioactive, they must be exposing themselves to nuclear waste. So there's some type of leak somewhere. Now, in my video that I put out about this yesterday, there was an expert on speaking about this problem. He said that there had been other problems at this facility in the past. So I started to look into things, and I found something very concerning. Over 10 years ago, about 13 years ago, in 2012, it was reported at this same site where they found this nest, they found radioactive spider webs, some of which were like in the water, underwater radioactive spider webs. This was reported over a decade ago. A big stink was made about it for 2 or 3 days. Of course, all of the headlines came in. Oh, what if we have a real life Spider-Man? You saw all of those kind of headlines like what we're seeing now with these wasps. And then the story just disappeared. There was never any answers, never a resolution. They never nipped the problem in the bud. It was just reported, hey, we found radioactive spider webs. We don't know if there's any radioactive spiders out here. And now, 13 years later, we got the same thing going on with wasps. So that tells you there's a lot of problems at this site. And from the looks of things, this site may be the breeding ground for radioactive freaking insects and bugs and arachnids and whatever the hell you want to call these things. I want to go ahead and dive into this article, but I want you guys to keep in mind that this article that I'm about to read for you all is from 2012, ladies and gentlemen. So this problem has been going on for a very long time. And if we're experiencing this problem now with the wasp, and they had this problem with the spiders 13 years ago, just imagine all of the issues that we haven't heard about. But like I said, let's go ahead and dive into this article. Could Spider-Man become a reality? Bizarre white webs found on nuclear waste that could have come from a mutant spider. Scientists are investigating a bizarre white web found on nuclear waste amid fears it could have been made by a mutant spider. In a freakish echo of the Spider-Man comic strip, workers at a U.S. nuclear waste facility discovered the growth on uranium last month. The white string-like material, never before seen on nuclear waste, was found among thousands of spent fuel assemblies submerged in deep pools. Experts from Savannah River National Laboratory collected a small sample of the mystery material to run tests. A report filed by the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board, a federal oversight panel, concluded that the growth, which resembles a spider web, has yet to be characterized, but may be biological in nature. The report said that the initial sample of the growth was too small to characterize, and that further evaluation still needs to be completed. But the bizarre growth still stokes fears that nuclear fuel can cause Frankenstein-style mutations. It echoes plots of Spider-Man, where Peter Parker becomes a superhero after being bit by a radioactive spider at a nuclear waste laboratory. The webs were found at the Savannah River site in South Carolina, a 300 square mile nuclear cleanup facility owned by the U.S. Department of Energy. Experts say that any creature inside the pools of water, which are intended to protect workers, would have been exposed to the nuclear fuel. This raises the prospect of a creature having morphed into a new species of extremophile after being exposed to uranium. Organisms with a natural resistance to radiation are said to be radioresistant and do exist. I'm not sure what these words are. The innocuous radiodurans is one of the most naturally radioresistant organisms on Earth and has been genetically engineered so that it can be used in the treatment of radioactive waste. Osman Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, a former professor of nuclear engineering at the University of Istanbul, said, "As we know, life evolves in most unusual places. Volcanoes at the mid-Atlantic are thriving with life where the water temperature is below 0 Celsius and pressure is more than 300 atm, or in hot saltwater pools around geysers. The water in the spent fuel pools is maintained at a certain pH and temperature. If microorganisms enter into the pool, they may have a chance to survive. The radiation field near a spent fuel assembly is very large and will definitely disturb the normal life cycle of the microorganisms. Though I am sure you would not get monsters like the ones that come out of the sea in Japan and cheap Japanese horror movies." The growth was found on fuel stored in a compound with 3-foot thick concrete walls and pools that ranged from 17 to 30 feet deep. Racks of nuclear waste are submerged in the water, some containing highly enriched uranium from foreign and domestic research reactors. Will Callicutt, a spokesperson for Savannah River National Laboratory, said in an email that officials hope to collect a larger sample for analysis. He added, "Whatever it is, it doesn't appear to be causing any damages." So, this was 13 years ago. And much like today, they come out here, they give you the news, they say, "Oh, we found this radioactive stuff. There may be these radioactive bugs on the loose." And then after a few days, the story disappears from the news cycle, and you never hear about it again. So for the last 13 years, we haven't really heard anything else About the radioactive spiders, the mutant spiders, the radioactive spider webs, nothing. And then fast forward to today, it's like we're restarting the process all over again. Oh my God, we found radioactive wasp nest. We gotta do these studies. We gotta do this. We gotta figure this out. And then 3 days from now, we'll never hear about the wasps again. And it will be on to the next crazy thing. But at some point, I'm hoping that people can have an attention span that is long enough to start nipping some of these problems in the bud, because more often than not, when I bring you these crazy stories, I bring you all of these crazy stories and there's never a solution. There's never a fairy tale ending. There's never really an ending at all for a lot of these stories. It's just that the story disappears from the news cycle. It's not that the problem went away. It's just that people stopped talking about it. And that's what they're banking on here. They're banking on the fact that we live in this society where the news cycle is moving so fast, and by next week, you're not going to hear anything else about these wasps. We'll never hear about what they found in their studies. We'll never hear about, what answers they came up with after collecting these samples. But I really wanted to put this video out just to show that there is a history at this one site alone. And there's tons of these sites all over the place. At this one site alone, we got multiple stories about mutant radioactive waste, freaking bugs, wasps, spiders, you name it. And if it's the wasp and spiders, it's the other bugs too. So yeah, I am kind of concerned about this, because this just proves that this is not a one-off problem. This isn't a problem that they just started having last week when they discovered this nest. This is an ongoing problem that they've been aware of for over a decade, a problem that has not been nipped in the bud. And while we sit here and we discuss the spiders and the wasp, understand that there are other creatures, other animals that may be getting exposed to this stuff, and people living in this area are probably exposed to this stuff as well. Very dangerous all around the board. But, unfortunately, I don't think anything is going to be done. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe we'll be sitting here. I'll be making another video about some new radioactive creatures that came out of this site, because that seems to be the trend here. Every few years, people make a big stink about it, and then it just goes away. Hopefully, this will be the time. Hopefully, the radioactive wasp will be the straw that broke the camel's back, and now people will apply pressure, for them to handle this issue, because this waste is leaking from somewhere. But as of right now, I just gotta hope that the wasps that are around my house and that the spiders that are around my house, I hope and pray that they haven't been exposed to any nuclear waste from any other facility that may be around here, because a lot of people don't even realize how many facilities like this one exist in America. You probably have one in your own backyard, in your own city, that you don't even know about. So, we'll see. I'm going to keep my eye on it. I'm not really happy about how the media has been covering the story, though, leaving out the news of all of the other nests that they've found. For now, though, you guys let me know what you think about this, though, down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon at the next one.